Okay, what's up guys? It's Mr. Fabella and we're doing percents now. So we did ratios, rates. Now the next thing that is up is percent, and it's just going to be a quick introduction. We're going to do more problems concerning percents and conversions, but today we're just going to concentrate on what a percent is and try to convert between percents and fractions, because if you really think about what percent means, the word percent, that means for every 100. So that's what we're going to be doing, is concentrating on percents. Key idea here, definition of a percent here is a part to whole ratio, where the whole is 100. So we already talked about ratios, what that is. It's a fraction, right? So it's a part to whole ratio, and 100 is the denominator. That's the whole part. So if I'm talking about 25%, it's 25 out of 100. So it's always going to be out of the same number, which is 100. So you can write a percent as a fraction with the denominator of 100. As you can see here, 60% is 60 out of 100. So you write that as a ratio, 60 over 100. And then the part is the numerator. Per is going to be the division bar, the fraction bar, and out of 100, a whole. So this is kind of like the same idea as when we did rates, when we were doing miles per hour, right? So if you're going 25 miles is on top, per is the fraction bar, and then per hour, that's the whole, like out of 1 hour. Okay, so in algebra it says n% equals n over 100. So that's a little tricky of what that means, but basically n is any number, any percent. So a percent can be any number. So if I'm talking about like 35%, then if I want to change that to a fraction, I just take the 35 without the percent symbol and put that over 100, because it's 35%, 35 for every 100. And then if you want to change that to a fraction, you just simplify that as much as you can. Okay, so in this case, you can divide the top and bottom by 5, right? And then you get 7 out of 20. So 7 out of 20 is the same as 35%. All right, let's move on here to the other side of this, which is writing fractions as percents. So I kind of showed you really quickly how to do a percent as a fraction. We'll do more of practice on that later, but then also fractions as percents. So if you have a fraction already, like 1/4, for example, you are going to want to find an equivalent fraction where the denominator isn't 4, it's 100. So you're always going to want a denominator of 100 if you want to change a fraction to a percent. So in this case, you can see here it's 1/4, 1 out of 4, you multiply by 25, multiply by 25, because if you multiply 4 by 25, you get 100. So if you do that on the bottom, you have to do it to the top as well. So 1 times 25 is 25, so 25 over 100. And then once you have that, now that you have a denominator of 100, then you can say that's 25%. So another example might be 2/5. So I want a denominator of 100. How do I get my 5 to 100? Well, if you remember, you multiply 5 times 20. That's how you get to 100. So if I do that to the top, I have to do it, or if I do it to the bottom, I have to do it to the top as well. So 2 times 20 is actually 40. So now I have a number on top over 100. So anytime you have a number on top in the numerator over 100, then the numerator, that's your percent. So this is actually equal to 40 per 100, or 40%. Okay, so here's another small example. A percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100, like we said before. So 45% is saying 45 out of 100. So as you can see here, we have a model here of a square that's split up into 100 little squares, and 45 of those is taken up. So that's a visual representation of what 45% is. If you want to show that as a bar, then if the whole bar is 100%, then you take a little less than 50%, because 50% is right here. That's 50%. So 45%, you write a line there, and then the part to the left that's shaded, that's your percent. Okay. So another example, write 50% as a fraction in simplest form. So 50%, if you want to write that as a fraction, you write 50% means per over 100. Okay, that's a fraction, but it's asking in simplest form. So let's reduce that. And maybe you don't know, but you can cross out the zeros. That's the same as 5 out of 10. And then you know that 5 goes into both of those, so it's 1/2. And you should probably already know that 50% is 1/2. But this is just a quick example. Another example here, a recent survey, 55% of cell phone owners said they text. What fraction of cell phone owners is this? So same thing, you have 55%, so 55%, and percent means over 100, so 55 over 100. What fraction of cell owners is this? And sure, you could just say 55 over 100, that's a percent. I mean, that's a fraction technically, but really if you're giving an answer as a fraction, it should be simplified. So you can see that you can divide by 5 for both of these. So that'll equal 11/20. So 11/20 of cell phone owners say text message. I don't know how old this is, but yeah. Okay, now we have another type of problem here. It says write the fraction 6/8 as a percent. So before we do this one, I want to remind you of what we did before. We were trying to make the denominator 100, right? So here it's kind of hard to see that the denominator is going to be 100, isn't it? Like 6/8, you can't make 8 into 100 easily, but you can do something else. You can make 6/8 into 3/4. So whenever you see this, if you can simplify the fraction, try to do that. And then now that you simplify the fraction, you can see that the 4, that can be made into 100, right? You simplified it. So now 4 can be made into 100. So what do you multiply by 4 to get in 100? Well, you know that 4 times 25 is 100. Okay, so that means if I say times 25 here, that means I have to do 3 times 25. So 3 times 25 is 75. So now that you have 75 over 100, you know that 75% of the rectangle is shaded. Okay, a few more examples here. I wanted to show a cool Desmos representation of this, and so this should be linked for you guys, and you don't have to worry about that part. And I'll just show this here. So right now we have two things. We have 2 squares, right? And on the left side, you can change this, and why don't I do here, this is 7 out of 10, right? On the bottom it says 7/10. That's shaded. So how can I change that to percent? Well, if I change it, if I move this over, the same things are shaded, I move it over here, well, on the right side that's split up into 100, so I can actually count. If I count all the boxes there, I get 70 out of 100. So kind of just a visual representation that yes, it's still 7 out of 10 here, but 7 out of 10 is the same as 70 out of 100. Let's try to change this up a little bit and change the denominator. So why don't we do out of 4, right? So let's do like that. So only 1 box out of 4, right? And the key here is that this square on the left is the same exact size as the square on the right. The only difference is on the left it's split up into 4. Notice the denominator is 4, and the right it's split up into 100. So the denominator is 100. Okay, so if I move this over, boom, and you count all those squares, it's a 5 by 5 square and that's shaded, you get 25 out of 100. So it's 25%. Let's keep going because this is kind of fun to me. To me, it's kind of fun. Out of 25, okay, what's going on over here? 6 out of 25. Why don't we do something like 11/25? Why not 11/25, right? So you're not sure how many is there. 11/25. If you slide this over, it's still 11/25. Nothing changed. But equivalent, if I split it up into 100, you get 44. You count those boxes, there are 44 boxes shaded out of 100. So it's 44%. So 11/25 is the same as 44%. Okay, so same thing here. These are very simple examples where you have write 35% as a fraction in simplest form. So again, you have 35. You can see that this is a box of 100. So there's 35. You can go ahead and count, but you can take my word for it. 35 out of 100. That's a fraction. If I divide by 5, I get 7 out of 20. We already did that. Write 100 as a fraction in simplest form. That's, for some reason, this is a little more tricky sometimes because you're like, what do you mean 100%? What do you mean a fraction? That's not a fraction. Well, if you think about it, look at how many boxes are shaded. There's 100 boxes shaded. Out of how many? Out of 100. So 100 out of 100 is 1 over 1 or just 1. So 100% is just 1 or 1 out of 1. And it says in simplest form, so 1 right there. It doesn't say ratio. Remember ratio, I said you still have to write out of 1 or 1 over 1. Here, no, you don't have to. Don't worry about that. All right. And then this one's kind of weird because now it says write 74% as a mixed number in simplest form. Well, 174%. So you know that it is going to be a mixed number because if it's more than one whole, it's going to be a mixed number. Well, if I count here, there's 100 over here and there's 74 over here. So I could do one of two things. I could just say 1 and then 74 out of 100, or I could say, okay, well, this and this make 174 together out of 100 because it says percent, right? It says percent. Whoops. It says percent. So it says out of 100, not out of 200. I know there's 100 out of 100, but it's saying out of 100. So this is 174 out of 100, right? So in this case, this is the same thing as 1 and 74 over 100. See, because, I mean, this is one whole right here, and then this is 74 over 100 on the right side. So then it says in simplest form. So let's see, how can you write that in simplest form if you have 74 over 100? Because 74 over 100, that it goes into 2. So if you divide top and bottom by 2, right there, this is 1. The one whole still stays the same. And this is 37 over 100. And then you think, does 37 go in 100? Does it share any common factors? Nope. So right there, that is 1 and 37 hundredths. Right here, it says write 3/50ths as a percent. So if you have 3 out of 50, if you want to make it a percent, you want to find the denominator. You want to find what the numerator is when the denominator is 100. So to get from 50 to 100, you multiply by 2. So that means I multiply the 3 by 2, and that's going to be 6. All right, so 6 out of 100, well, that's 6 per 100, 6%. Okay, here, a drought affects 9 out of 12 Midwestern states. What percent of the Midwestern states are affected by the drought? So this is 9 out of 12. 9 out of 12, that is going to be a comparison of two things, 9 out of 12. So 9 out of 12. Okay, so it's asking for a percent, right? So I want to eventually get to something over 100. I can't get from 12 to 100 very easily. What I can do is simplify this fraction though. 9 over 12, well, 3 goes into 9 and 12, so that's the same as 3/4. Okay, cool. And then let's see, well, 3/4, I can get that to 100, right? I can get that to 100, I'm going to move this over. Well, if I multiply 4 by 25, I get 100. If I multiply 3 by 25, I also get 100. So I end up with 75. And then that's not a percent yet. You have to write 75%. So 75% of Midwestern states are affected by the drought. Okay, so a few more problems here, and then we're good to go. So what write a percent as a fraction or a mixed number in simplest form? I'm just going to do the mixed number here because I think that's going to be the tricky one. 168%. So if you have 168, it doesn't matter what the percent is, as long as it says percent, you can put that over 100. So that becomes 1 and 68 over 100. That's a little bit easier to work with, right? So that becomes, you have to think, okay, what goes into 68? Does 2, does 4, and actually 4 goes into 68. So in this case, the 1 stays there. 68 divided by 4 is 17. And then 100 divided by 4 is 25, and nothing else goes there, so you have 1 and 17/25. And then last one, how about this one right here? You have 1.5. 1.5 as a percent. So remember, you want the denominator to be 100, right? But then what are you going to do about this 1 over here? Well, I can make it into a improper fraction first. Why don't I do that? So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3 over 2. There we go. And I want to somehow make this into 100. So how do you get from 2 to 100? You multiply by 50. Okay, so 2 times 50 is 100. Good. 3 times 50 is 150. So now you have 150 and then over 100, so 150%. So anytime you have a improper fraction or a mixed number and you change that to a percent, it's going to be over 100. All right, so hopefully that was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.